Okay, so today we're going to dive into the story of Chad, a nation that's found itself right at the epicenter of some of the world's biggest converging crises. We're going to explore how conflict, climate change, and displacement have created a perfect storm, and the incredible plan to fight back.
For years, Chad has had this really stark nickname. It was mostly a reference to its location, landlocked in Central Africa and its massive, unforgiving desert climate. But today, that name, it's taken on a much, much heavier meaning. Because right now, Chad is home to over 1.3 million people who've been forcibly displaced. And just to put that number in perspective for you, that is one of the largest refugee populations per capita on the entire planet, all in a country with incredibly limited resources to begin with.
And if that wasn't enough, Chad is also ranked as the single most vulnerable country on Earth to the effects of climate change. And we're not talking about some far-off threat. This is their reality, right now. So you have to ask, right? How did all of this happen in one place? How did Chad become this epicenter? Well, the answer, as it often does, lies in a really long and complicated history that laid the groundwork for the instability we see today. To really get it, we've got to dig back a bit. The roots of Chad's fragility are buried deep in a turbulent history, one that created these deep fault lines long before its modern borders were even a thing. Looking at this timeline, you can see a clear and tragic pattern. You have this north-south divide that was first carved out by ancient empires, and then French colonial rule comes in and just pours gasoline on that fire. This long, long history of exploitation and division, it just exploded into decades of civil war right after independence, leaving the country's institutions shattered and its people incredibly vulnerable to the storms that were just over the horizon.
And in just the last few years, two totally distinct but deeply connected crises have slammed into Chad at the same time. It's created what you can only call a perfect storm. One is a crisis of humanity, the other, a crisis of nature. So let's start with the human storm. This was kicked off in April 2023 when a really brutal civil war erupted in neighboring Sudan. It sent hundreds of thousands of terrified people literally running for their lives.
Since that war started, more than 770,000 Sudanese refugees have poured across the border into eastern Chad, just looking for safety. I mean, it's one of the fastest and largest movements of people across the border on the entire continent.
And the stories you hear are they're harrowing. Many, like this one woman, Aziza, a 41-year-old mom, went through these unbelievably dangerous journeys, facing down violence, not knowing if they would make it out alive. Her story is just a powerful reminder of the real human cost of all this.
This sudden flood of people is putting a strain on the country that is it's almost impossible to imagine. Get this, 86% of the new arrivals are women and children. In towns like Adre, the local population of 40,000 people is now completely dwarfed by surrounding refugee camps holding 280,000. And remember, this is all happening in a country where almost half of its own people already need humanitarian aid.
So you have this historic humanitarian crisis, and it is crashing head-on into an equally severe environmental one. The land itself is just under incredible pressure.
Look, for the people in Chad, climate change isn't something they just read about in the news. It is their actual, daily life. The country is getting slammed with rising temperatures, extreme heat, and rainfall that is just dangerously unpredictable.
And you can see how this all connects, right? It's like a domino effect. The droughts hit, so the good, fertile land shrinks. The rain doesn't come when it's supposed to, so food and water become scarce. And when people get desperate for resources, that's when tensions flare. And you get conflict between communities like farmers and herders. It just adds another layer of instability.
But, and this is a really big but, in the face of all this, something truly remarkable is happening. One of the most ambitious environmental projects on the entire planet is taking root, and it's this incredible symbol of hope.
It's called the Great Green Wall Initiative, and it is this game-changing, African-led plan to grow an 8,000-kilometer living wonder, a mosaic of trees and plants stretching across the entire width of the continent. The goal? To fight desertification, climate change, and poverty, all at the same time.
And when I say the goals are ambitious, I am not kidding. The targets for 2030 are just staggering. They want to restore 100 million hectares of land. That's an area bigger than the entire country of Nigeria. They want to create 10 million jobs, and they want to pull 250 million tons of carbon out of the atmosphere.
So how do they actually do it?
Well, in Chad, one of the main strategies is called the forest garden approach, and it's actually pretty brilliant. Farmers start by planting a living fence of trees that protects their crops. Then they diversify, planting all kinds of different trees and crops. This not only restores the soil, but it gives them a source of food and income all year round.
The vision here is it's on another level. I mean, think about that for a second. This is not just about planting a few trees. The idea is to create a new, living wonder of the world, the largest natural structure on the entire planet. Wow.
So, it all comes down to this, doesn't it? Here you have Chad, a nation trapped in this perfect storm of crises. But at the very same time, it's a central part of this incredible story of resilience and hope. The big question isn't just whether a wall of trees can hold back a desert, but whether it can help a nation at the very epicenter of crisis build a new, more stable and more hopeful future.